Okay, we're rolling.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. I hope you're doing well. I'm Dave. I live in Ontario, Canada. I host 9 different podcasts, over 2,000 episodes, and I love people who podcast. So you and I are already best friends. I created this show as a counterbalance to the other podcasts about podcasting, which feel at times a little judgmental, a little bit of, hey, we're the best and you're the rest kind of thing, right? And I wanted this to be a place where community podcasts together. You hear from community voices, not just me. I only know what I know. I don't know everything. Despite what my wife says, I am not the smartest person in the world. No, she doesn't say that. I just, there's only so much that I know about podcasting. Yet, I have a show called the How to Podcast series. So how dare you be Dave? Be the guy that's the voice of how to podcast. How dare you, right? I hit record. That's the difference between me and all the other people who have an opinion about podcasting is they haven't hit record. So I did it. And so can you, by the way. Whatever you're the voice of, whatever you're interested in, whatever lights you up, how dare you be the voice of that? Well, you're the person who hit record. And all of those other people who said that they could do it better, guess what? They're not doing anything except complaining and whining. So don't let anybody step on your dream of starting a podcast. You can do whatever you want. Who cares what they say? They're most likely never going to do one anyway. And as much as they hurl insults at you and try to make you feel little, you're better than that. Just start your show. You'll be fine. So yeah, there's a lot of shows about podcasting. And when I created this show, I wanted it to be an alternative to those other shows. You know, the shows that tell you can make $1 million in a week, or you can just buy yourself listeners, or you could be the top 100 podcast. Whatever. You can, be number 1 on Listen Notes. Okay. All right. Great. Good for you. Whatever you want, right? They'll sell you something. That's what they do. They come to podcasting as a marketing opportunity. They got something to sell you. And they do a podcast or a meetup or a conference or a class, and then they hit you with it. It's like buying timeshares at some seniors retreat in Florida. It's free, and they're free food and free gifts, and then they hit you with it, right? This is what I mean. This is the real reason you're here. I'm going to sell you something now. And you feel really gross, like you need a shower after, right? That's the kind of podcast that this is the alternative to. It's the How to Podcast series. I'm ranting. Let's get on with our topic, Dave. Let's get going. A frequent question I get from podcasters who are starting out. We set them up with a podcast host. Now, a podcast host has dual meanings. It's the person talking on the mic and hosting the show. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm the host of the How to Podcast series. That's a podcast host. But there's also this other thing called a hosting site, which is where you give the podcast to, and then they give it to all the different places. Apple, Spotify, Audible, YouTube, whatever. It distributes from your podcast host, not the person talking on the mic, but the company that supports your podcast and distributes it for you. Think of it like a store, right? You put your podcast episodes in the store, and then the store distributes it out to all the different places. When you look at your stats from your podcast host, what you're seeing is high-level, kind of best guess data around your audience, where they are, who listened, kind of some information about, are they, their gender, their age, again, where they live, what country, what city in some cases. Libsyn is a podcast host, and you have to pay for this information on top of paying for your hosting, which I don't think is a great idea. I don't understand that model at all. Hence why I'm not on that, and I don't point people towards that company. If you love them, great, good. But I don't think that's an add-on. That's a must-have. They should at least be able to see your data. So for the 3 different podcast hosts that I use, Buzzsprout, Captivate, and Spotify for Creators, I'm in all 3 because I want to know how these platforms work. So I can give you my recommendation based on what you want to do. All 3 of these have their own advantages and disadvantages. They're not perfect. None of them are. But when I go to my stats in all 3 of these hosting sites, they give me okay data. Like enough to go, all right, I kind of get it. I kind of see what's happening. But there's a different level that you can go to, which gives you first-party data, which means directly from that platform for the users on that platform, specific to your podcast. You get a lot more data by going to these places. And for the next couple episodes, we're going to be focusing on these separately and talking through a little bit of the dashboard that you're going to see that's different from the dashboard of your podcast to help you understand what you're looking at and how to navigate these dashboards. So we're going to talk about Spotify for Creators. Even if you're not hosted there, right? You're hosted on Blubrry or Libsyn or Captivate, Buzzsprout, whatever. Even though you're hosted elsewhere, you have a dashboard specific to Spotify through Spotify for Creators, allowing you to see the back end of Spotify. You're not going to see Apple. You're not going to see Audible. You're going to see only Spotify. This is data, first-party data, that Spotify does not share with your hosting site. Your hosting site has no vision to this information. They have no idea what you're looking at. So if you've never signed in or claimed your show on Spotify, you're not changing your hosting site. You're not moving your show from Buzzsprout to Spotify to get access to this. Everyone has access to this. It's just a matter of going and claiming your show. And then you get to see what's happening on Spotify, just Spotify. And you get some data that you'll never see on your podcast hosting site because it's not available to them to show you. So I would recommend strongly that you go and claim your show on Spotify and go through the process. Now, if all this sounds like you have no idea what I'm talking about, then you and I just need a Zoom meeting together. We can screen share. I'll walk you through it, show you how to connect your show to Spotify and claim your show and show you how to navigate the screens you've never looked at in Spotify. You might be doing better on Spotify than you thought. And there's a bonus thing that if you've never claimed your show, there's something going on Spotify that you are totally unaware of, and your audience is getting frustrated because you're not there to interact with them. And we'll talk about that. It's really important, and you're not going to see it on many apps. But specific to Spotify and this episode, you're missing out if you don't do this one thing, and we're going to talk about that here on the show. So let's go through this. I'm going to explain it in audio terms without a visual because this is an audio podcast. And again, if you have any questions and you're like, can you show me? Then go to howtopodcast.ca, click on my calendar link. It's always there, and we can jump on and do a video conference call together, screen share, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. It's totally free. I don't sell you anything, but if you want help, skip the line and let's go. Let's chat. Okay. So I'm going to go through this together. Let's go high level first, and then we'll get a little more in the details specific to Spotify. So when you think of this in this term. Spotify requires you to have an account. So when you set up your account on Spotify, if you have a paid account, whatever, you're signing up for the platform. When you sign up, you're giving information to Spotify, which then they can use within their platform, just like any other platform. Don't get nervous. Facebook does this. Instagram does this. LinkedIn does this. So anybody that gets really nervous about, Spotify knows my name. So does all the other places, by the way. So don't just single out this one platform for how they do what they do. I'm really annoyed by people who get super crazy focused on the fact that, Spotify knows my last name. Okay, just relax. Spotify for podcasters, some key elements and navigation. Spotify for podcasters. Okay, this you don't have to be hosted there. You can be hosted on any of the other platforms, but you can claim your show and you can sign in and see what's going on in your show. Spotify has first-party Spotify listener data tools for engaging with your audience inside of Spotify. Again, you're a podcast host outside of Spotify, can't do this. What you will see in Spotify for podcasters, first-party data that you're not going to see on any other site. Spotify provides metrics based on actual Spotify users and how they behave with your episodes. These insights usually go deeper than your hosting platform and can track because Spotify understands user-level behavior, not just download counts. So some demographics you're going to get through Spotify for creators about your audience. Listener demographics around age ranges, gender, top countries and cities, type of device, mobile, desktop, smart speaker. Hosting platforms can't see this demographic data the way that it shows on Spotify for Spotify. They only see IP address-based geolocations. They don't get to see the data that Spotify has. So listener demographics, you get more information on Spotify for your Spotify listeners. Second, listener behavior, your engagement metrics about how people act on Spotify around your content. Here's some of the things that the most valuable insights you're going to get as a podcaster on Spotify for creators about your show. Starts, how many people hit play, streams, played for at least 60 seconds, listeners, unique counts that are listening to your show, followers, users who follow your show on Spotify. For this show, I'm over 705 followers on Spotify. And I can see ups and downs. I can see people coming. I can see people leaving. I get updates on that all the time. 705 of you are listening here on Spotify. That's amazing. I'm so thrilled. So thank you, all 705 of you. We got to hang out sometime. So you get to see your followers. You get to see your retention graphs. Second by second drop-off curve of where people start and where people leave per episode. You're not going to see that on your hosting site. They don't have access to this. Your average consumption, how much of an episode that listeners complete, and episode comparison tools, which shows how each episode performs over time. All of these things are amazing, great tools. As your host might show you listens, your host might show you downloads, but only Spotify can show you retention curves, starts versus streams, and what point people drop off. These are all key things. So if you go back in time, we talked about the fact that you might not have a growth problem for your show. You might have a retention problem, meaning you're getting 5 new listeners every episode, and every episode 5 listeners leave. So they kind of cancel each other out, and so it looks like your show's not growing. But if you were able to keep the 5 people from leaving, every new 5 people every episode, you don't have a growth problem. People are leaving your show for some reason. Why are they leaving? I don't know. How long do they listen? I don't know. Your hosting site can't give you this information. So when you go to Spotify, you can look at your episode by episode, and you notice in your 40-minute podcast, everybody leaves at the 20-minute mark. Why is it this big drop-off at 20 minutes? You can listen to the episode at the 20-minute mark and see what's going on. It could simply be that your podcast is too long. It could be that you went on a tangent and you got off the topic and people are like, I'm out. I don't know where you're going with this. You lost me. I'm done. It could be anything. It could simply be the person got to their destination, got out of the car, and shut off their phone and stopped your podcast. It's nothing about you. It's nothing about your content. It was the length of their drive. It could be they were at the gym and they were done running on the treadmill. Again, nothing about you. There's nothing to change. It's just your listener got to the end of their activity and your podcast ended for them and they never came back. It's nothing about you. So we need to figure out why people are leaving your show. So if I can see through your Spotify page that your follower count is going down, people are leaving your show. People leave this show. They don't tell me, but they just leave. I go, okay, wait a minute. What's happening here? Why is the trend that more people are leaving than people coming? So that's important information that your podcast host can't tell you. They have no idea what's happening to your follower count on Spotify. So if you're not on Spotify, for creators looking at your show from the lens of Spotify, you don't know what you don't know. And that's where you fall into a trap where you make bad decisions. You entrust your podcast to some guru, pay them $2,000, and you hope for the best. Or you can just educate yourself and understand what these stats really mean. So again, you can see retention curves, starts versus streams, and what people are dropping off at what point for your podcast. This is information you're not going to see through your host. There's also some audience interactive tools that help you as well. Spotify uniquely allows you to engage inside the app. You can create Q&As for your listeners for an episode, for every episode, a different Q&A. You can do a poll and have your audience respond to, is it this, this, or this? You can also have comments within the episode where people interact. And this is the point where I think that you are missing the boat. If you have not claimed your show on Spotify and you've never gone to your Spotify dashboard outside of your podcast host, you might have a world of people leaving you comments and you've never responded to them. Imagine if you've been doing your show for a long time. You got 50, 100 episodes and you've never gone to Spotify. And then one day you go there and you see a wall of comments, unread comments from your audience where they're reaching out to you and giving you love and giving you feedback and saying, oh my gosh, this changed my life. And here you sit in this bubble of, well, I just trust my hosting site to tell me everything I need to know. Well, no, there's people leaving you comments on Spotify and you have no vision to it because you've never been there. I respond to every single comment on Spotify, whether my show is hosted there or not. I respond to every single comment. And I leave a thoughtful response. I don't just do like, hey, thanks. I do something because those are people reaching out to me. When you tell me that you have no engagement for your podcast and you've never been on Spotify to check, see if you have any comments, wait a minute. What are you saying? You've never put in the work to see if there's people leaving you comments and then you complain that there's no comments. Do you see what I'm saying? You're missing a huge component of your audience by not going in and checking your comments. It's right there on the left-hand side in the menu item. There'll be this little, like a little bulb, a little light, a little circle saying, you got comments here, people. So go in, respond to every comment. Make sure you don't miss a single one. So whether you go in once a month, twice a month, once a week, go in and look at your comments on Spotify. It's homework. Yeah, it's called work. It's what podcast is made out of, work. It's not just going to come to you in a flowery little dish and go, look at me, here's all your great information. No, you got to do the work. So go check your comments. Oh my gosh, you might be sitting on a gold mine and your audience might be going, well, that's sad. I reached out to my favorite podcaster on Spotify and they don't even respond. I do that to podcasts I love, even though they never respond to me. I do it for the Pod News Weekly Review with James Cridlin. I love James Cridlin and Sam Sethi. Amazing people. I listen on Spotify. And I know they don't like Spotify. They're very grumpy about Spotify, and they have their reasons. I get it. But I leave all my comments on Spotify, and not once have I got a response from those two because they don't value Spotify. And I'm like, oh, I get it that you might not enjoy the platform for all of the reasons that you have stored up, but there's still people there. And why are we ignoring people who find us where they find us? If you ever say at the end of your show, find me wherever you find podcasts, then for the love of podcasting, you need to be there to meet them wherever they find you. Your personal opinions aside, Buzzsprout does the same thing. They are anti-Spotify. They're anti-video. And it's just like, oh, come on. Really? Your audience is there. Don't ignore them. I get it. You have an opinion. Great. So do I. But I also know that there's people listening to my show on Apple. And I don't like Apple. But I go there. I go there because I need to, because my audience is there, even though I will never buy an Apple product. Right? So there you go. It's the same for me. I have places and I have opinions, and I still make myself available to my audience no matter where they are. Even if they're on TikTok and they think that's a podcast, I still show up. So if you ever say, find me wherever you find podcasts, they're going to leave you comments. And if you don't show up, your audience is going to think that you don't care. And that's really hard for your audience to understand. They don't care about your opinions. They're using the app that they want to use. Be there. Show up. Okay? So audience interactivity tools, again, Q&A polls and comments. You're missing the boat if you don't go through Spotify for Creators, claim your show, and get in there and talk to your audience. You're not going to see that on your hosting site. They have no vision to that. So please do that. To respond to your comments and interactions inside Spotify for podcasters, Spotify for Creators, go to navigate to episodes and then select an episode, scroll to interactions, and then you can approve, hide the comments, reply directly, pin the comments, and add new Q&A prompts or edit the polls. Comments create actual engagement within Spotify. Spotify likes engagement. So if you want to have more engagement, then be engaging on Spotify. And all of these things can boost your discoverability because Spotify favors episodes with higher interaction between host and listener. So be there, all right? Be there. Go. And again, if you have any questions, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, you and I can do a Zoom call together and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Happy to help in any way. But go there and check out your comments and interactions. You might be missing a gold mine. The other thing we get to see through Spotify for Creators, the back end of Spotify. Again, we're not talking Apple and Audible and JioSaavn and all these other places. We're talking just Spotify right now. Spotify gives you access to your top episodes by streams, your time-based charts, days, weeks, and months, traffic sources such as how people have been interacting with you through browse and search, your existing audience, external shares, editorial playlists. It's rare, but it's possible. Hosting platforms cannot see traffic source pathways the way that Spotify can. So go check out your episode performance. Also super important to go and be aware of that on your Spotify dashboard. What your hosting platform shows, Buzzsprout, Captivate, Libsyn, Blubrry, hosting platforms can only see server activity, not listener behavior. They measure downloads, plays against all platforms, geographic locations, which are IP-based, what apps people are using, Apple, Spotify, etc., total downloads per episode, and unique downloads. Some hosts, example Captivate, also estimate Apple Podcast metrics, but Apple gives limited data unless you check Apple Podcasts Connect directly. That's our next episode. We're going to focus on the Apple backend. Again, not my go-to place, but I still go there. Hosts cannot show you completion rates, retention graphs, starts versus streams, Spotify follower counts, listener demographics, Spotify comments, polls, and Q&A results, because hosts don't have access to Spotify's internal user data. So keep that in mind. Some key metrics that podcasters should watch for from Spotify for Creators. This information that you get only on Spotify can really help you understand your listener behavior, your retention graphs, where your listeners drop off episode to episode, within the episode, how long they listen for. That's super important information. Again, your host can't give that to you. So only Spotify can show you Spotify data. Average completion percentage, again, super important to find out if people are sticking around to the end of your episode. Remember, we talk about that here all the time. Listening to the podcast to the very end is a signal to any app, I don't care what it is, that this show is worth listening to. If everybody came to the podcast, pressed play, and left 10 seconds later, everyone, the app is not having a great interaction with that content, and it's going to start going, well, why is everyone leaving? What is going on here? What is it? Is the podcast terrible? Like, what is going on? Why do people come and leave? But if everyone came to your show, press play, and stayed to the end, if you have a 5-minute episode or 45-minute episode, everyone played to the very end of every episode, your apps are going to naturally want to promote that over a show where everyone leaves within the first 10 seconds. That's just logical. That doesn't need any kind of, I don't need somebody to sign off on that comment. That just makes sense. If people come to your show and stay, that's worth sharing. It's just a fact. So we want to know about that average completion percentage, streams versus listeners, how many people return to your show, follower growth, long-term audience health. You can get to see that through your Spotify dashboard, and your comments and questions and participation, engagement strength. How engaged is your audience? Having a number for people who listen is one thing. Having an engaged audience who reacts, an audience that responds to comments and questions and polls and all that, that's what you want, an engaged audience more than a big audience. You want an engaged audience. From your hosting platform, they help you understand total download numbers, download trends over time, listener location, country and city, playback apps like, again, Spotify, Apple, web, episode performance across platforms. That's kind of the information you're going to see. So think of it this way. Spotify tells you how people listen, and your hosts tell you how many people listen. That's a big difference. Spotify tells you how people listen to your show, and your podcast host tells you how many people listen to your show. So if you're happy with just knowing how many people listen, and you don't care about comments, you don't care about engagement with your audience, you don't care about all that stuff, you'll never have to go to your Spotify dashboard. You don't have to go there at all. If it's not your priority to have an engaged podcast and connect with your audience, then you can forget this whole episode. But everybody that I work with that complains about having low engagement, people are leaving the show, people aren't coming back, then I say to them, well, have you done your homework? And it's usually 99% of the time, no. I didn't even know I could do this. And that's why I'm doing this episode. Because you need to go spend some time looking at your numbers. You need to look at it like an accountant would look at your taxes. At the end of the year, you need to look at your data for your show. It's super, super important. In short, Spotify for podcasters, Spotify for creators, as it's called now, gives creators behavioral and interactive insights, the actual way Spotify users consume your content, while hosting platforms give distribution and download analytics across the whole ecosystem of podcasting. Together, I think it's a benefit to have both. They form a complete view of your podcast health. So this is exactly what I would encourage you to go check out, is through your Spotify for Creator dashboard. And again, if you need any help with this, reach out. I'd love to help you anytime. Over at howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for being here. Hey, thanks for being here to the end of the episode. That means a lot to me. It means a lot to all the players and all the apps. You're telling the apps, this is a podcast worth listening to. So you've just made this show better. So thank you. Now, I've had people reach out to me and they're like, Dave, I need to start a podcast and I'd love to start. But when I come to your show, there's a lot of episodes and I don't know where to start. How do I skip the line? How do I get to where I want to be without listening to over 500, 600 episodes? How do we make this happen? I love what you do, but I want to just get going. Well, I do offer consultations on podcasting and helping you and launching podcasts and coaching and mindset and everything. Technology, interviewing techniques, whatever you can think of, I can help you with. And I have some paid offerings then to help you with that. So if you want to skip the line, great. You and I can work together. Let's figure out what you can afford. Let's figure out what we can do together. Always happy to help. Understand, though, this podcast is always going to be free. So you can bypass paying anything for anything because this show's always free. The meetups that we do, which is podcast consulting in a community setting, always free, twice a week. Over 2 years we've been doing it. There's always a free option. I'm not going to charge you to be here as a listener. But if you want to skip the line and kind of condense 500 plus episodes, then let's work together, you and I together. And I have some paid offerings. Reach out to me. We can talk about it. howtopodcast.ca. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the end. I really appreciate you. And I appreciate you being part of this community. Always free, but always helpful. It's a How to Podcast series. Thanks for being here. Cheers. Hey, it's Dave. Thanks for being here to the end of the episode. I really appreciate being here. Before we jump into the next episode coming up, a question and answer. And I do this because you're still here, and I really appreciate you being here to the end of the podcast. So the question I'm getting from audience members around podcasting goes to the idea of, should I have a website for my podcast? Now, my quick answer is yes. Why? Because a podcast website is your piece of the internet. I have a house. Thankfully, I bought my house a long time ago before the world went crazy with real estate. And my wife and I have a house. I have an address. I know where I live. It's my house. I'm not renting. I don't have a landlord who could walk in tomorrow and say, you're out. I'm going to be renovating the place and you got to move. It's my house. I'm the owner. My wife and I are the owners of this house. This is our mortgage. It's our piece of property. So we're lucky to have that. And with family help, we were able to do that. So that's why I think it's important to have a website. If you're renting, which means you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, you're on name whatever, LinkedIn, you're renting space with these places. You don't own the keys to that organization, to that website, to that platform, to social media. You don't own it. It's not yours to own. It belongs to someone else. So you want to be where you own the message, you own the story, you own the address. So having a website is super important. If you don't have the ability to create your own website and you're like, I don't have time, the money, tech skills, I can always help you. But if you don't want to go down that path, you can use a tool like Podpage. The only thing I would warn you about with Podpage or something similar is when you look at the address line for your website on your screen, www. blah, 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 it'll say podpage.com/ the name of your show. Whatever comes before the name of your show is someone else's website. So my caution to you is you are giving your audience and your attention and your Google juice to Podpage / the name of your show. I would, if all you have is the ability to use Podpage and you're okay with a monthly fee, then go with Podpage to start, get going. That's fine. But you're giving your attention to Podpage. They are gaining not only the fee they're making from you every month, but they're also gaining your traffic. I would much rather you buy the domain, www.something, whatever, and then point that at something you already have. You could then point that website to your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, anything that's public facing that doesn't require a login to see it. I would point my website address at that for now. I can talk about it on my show. Go to howtopodcast.ca, even though it's pointing at my Facebook page at the moment or whatever I'm pointing it at. But I can take that address and point it wherever I want while I'm building my website in the background. That would be my choice over Podpage. I would have the website domain and point it somewhere I own or somewhere I'm renting for now, but still don't send them to Facebook. Don't send them to a link tree. Send them to your website. Own the conversation. Don't send them to your Facebook page because that will change over time. And if you record many episodes, you're going to have old episodes with old links and people will go there looking for you and you're not there. Just buy the domain. Some domains will be $12 to $15 a year. a year, not a month, a year to own your own website. I use GoDaddy.com to buy my websites. You can buy them from other places as well. But buy the domain and own it. There's only one domain, the one that you buy. No one else can buy the exact same website that you have. So buy the domain that you want and point it at somewhere where you want people to go. That would be how I would start. If you like Podpage, go for it. You're going to pay every month for it. And they're taking a big chunk of your search because it goes to them first and then goes to you second. I would rather that you go to you first. So buy the domain, point it at something you own or something you're renting, build your website in the background, and then point it at your website. You're done. That's what I would do. So if you want to see what I'm doing, howtopodcast.ca is purchased on GoDaddy, and it's pointing at my Canva page. I built my website on Canva. So that's it. All I'm paying for is the Canva membership that I use for everything else I do with my shows. But I also have my website hosted there. Purchased through GoDaddy. And that's it. So if you're overthinking a website and you feel intimidated, then reach out to me. I'd love to help you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to the end. We'll talk to you on the next episode. We're going to focus on more great information here in the How to Podcast series, and I'm glad you're here. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Can't wait to see what we can do together in 2026. Take care. Bye.